UiPath is the most advanced RPA tool in the world. I'm Jensen, a professional RPA teacher and a two-time UiPath Most Valuable Professional. Let's learn some UiPath. To install UiPath, you go to uipath.com, then click Try UiPath Free in the upper right corner. Here we want to install the full automation cloud for community. That is the free full version. So click the Get Automation Cloud for Community. Fill in your email. And a password and click Create Account. Now you will be sent a verification code on email. So let's go check our email. It's already there. So I'll copy this number here and I'll go back to the setup and paste it in and click Continue. Here I'll put in my full name and my country. I'm from Denmark, so I'll go find that and click Next. Then I want to put in my organization name. Mine is called Jensen Org, and I'll create the organization. Then a few seconds will went by. That's it. Then we'll download UiPath Studio by clicking up here. We will wait before the 800 megabyte is downloaded. That's it. We can start it. Here we will choose the quick setup. This is the version that you want to use. Click I accept the terms in the license agreement and click Install. If you click OK to this, you'll lose this YouTube video because it will close all your browser windows. So please go up to the URL of this video and mark it and copy it so you can find it after you clicked OK here. Then when you have the address of this video, you can click OK here. Then you'll click OK to force close all windows like that. And we have completed the setup. Here we can press Launch UiPath Studio to start up UiPath Studio. Now click Sign In. That will take you to the cloud.uipath.com where we can automatically verify our installation. First of all, I want to say Open UiPath here. Then we are automatically verified. I also want to restore the pages from before, so I click Restore here. Then we are back at the UiPath. So let's go down to Studio again. You can find it here. Studio or Studio X. We want to go with Studio, always Studio. Studio X is a light version of UiPath. Very few people use it. You will find very little documentation and help. So please go with UiPath Studio. Click here. This is UiPath. I will just click Don't Show here and close and let me maximize it. First, I want to go to Tools over here to the left. So I'll click it. Click UiPath Extensions. If you want to install browser extensions, for example, for Firefox, you can do it here. That is, if you want to automate that browser. We have installed Chrome and Edge for the matter, so we're good. We will let this be. Then click Settings. Go to Design. Scroll a little bit down to Use Modern for new projects. The default is yes, but if you had an older installation of UiPath, this will not be default, so you just need to make sure that this is yes. We are ready to go. We also want to inspect the UiPath Assistant. You can find it down here in the tray. It looks like this. I can double click it. The UiPath Attended Manager. Here we can start and stop automation and inspect a lot more. If you see this green light up here, that means that you have connected UiPath to the UiPath Assistant. If for somehow it is red, gray, or blue, it might look like this. Let me just sign out. Then I go back here. You can see that this is gray. I just click sign in here. And again, I will just click open UiPath and we're signed in. If you want to find the UiPath Assistant, if it's not down here in your tray, then you can go to your Windows Start menu and search for UiPath Assistant and start it right here. However, we're good. So let's start building our first robot. I'll close down the UiPath Assistant and let me close down some of these browser panes. I can also close down this Outlook. I'm not going to use my email for now. Then we go back to UiPath Studio. You can always start UiPath Studio in your Start menu as well by searching for UiPath Studio. And you can, of course, make shortcuts such as sending it to the task bar. Go back here. So when you start up UiPath Studio, it will start on Start. And to create a new process, you go up to New Project, Process, and then we'll give it a name. I will call this one UiPath Beginners Course. We can specify a location. Per default, your UiPath code is in your documents. You can change it by clicking this folder here and choose a folder elsewhere. It's good for now. One thing that I would like to talk about is whether or not you should use VB, Visual Basic, or C#. It's both under the .NET framework, and you might be inclined to use the C# because that's the most common language compared to Visual Basic. But UiPath used Visual Basic since its beginning. That means that every documentation page, every tutorial, videos, everything is in Visual Basic. So unless you have a very good reason to, don't choose the C#. I'll click Create. Let me skip this tour here. And I'll open up the main workflow. This is where our activities go. We'll drag them into this canvas. It's called main and it's the default workflow sequence. The dependencies that refer to packages linked to this project. These ones are default, but we can install more. Here you'll also see our main. If I click activities down here, here are our predefined code blocks. I can drag and drop these code blocks into my main sequence. For example, I can just use a write line here and I can enter some text. So here I can say hello in quotation marks and I can run the robot. This is our very first robot. That's it. You will not see anything. But if you go down to the output, you can see our little message down here. Click the output again to minimize. You will find a lot more actions down here. We can expand, for example, the UI automation. You can go into the application and you can see a lot of actions here. For example, I can drag in a use application browser here. Then I'll need to point to an application to automate. Let's say I want to automate the calculator. So I'll just open this. This could be literally any application. Then I'll say indicate application to automate here. And you can see it turns green. Then I'll click it. Now we will open up the Windows calculator. And if I click this use application calculator, then I go over here to the right. Click this little wrench here, that's the properties. And here you'll see some properties. Per default, our automation will close down the application if it's opened. I'll choose never here, and that's only because I want to see what's going on. So let us close down the calculator once more. Try to run it. There you go. You could see that the application called calculator opened in the background. Let's also say I want to click a button. Then I go back here. I could, of course, find that click action down here in all these actions, but I could also go up in search activities and search for a click. Don't worry, you will get used to all these actions when you build. That's why it's so important that you build with me. You will learn much more than just passively watching. So if you already haven't started your UiPath Studio, please pause the video and start it up and build these things with me. Then we'll take a click and drag it in this do container. Here you can see that UiPath actually guides us. It says indicate in app calculator. So if I click here, I can choose all these ones here. Say I want to choose number 5. I simply just click left with the mouse and UiPath automatically creates an address for this button. I can click confirm. Now let's try to see it works, and for simplicity I'll close it down while I run. Over here we have the debug, and if I click this drop down I can choose run file, debug or run. I'll usually just go with run file, that's the fastest one. If we want to debug our code, that is to make it correctly looking so there will be no errors, then we'll use the debug. We might use it a little bit later. So I'll click run file. Now we'll open up a calculator and we press number 5. That's it. That's how easy it is to automate UiPath. Let's build an end-to-end project where I will teach you all the best UiPath practices. So let's delete what we have built so far. You just mark this use application, then you press delete on your keyboard. You could also mark it or right click and then click delete. So now we just have our main sequence. Let's download the course materials. So open up a browser and let me just close this one here. Here it is. I created this course page for you. The link is in the video description below. Here I want to click this gray button, download course materials. That will take you to my OneDrive, where a zip folder with the things that we need. Click the 3 dots and then click download. You're of course also welcome to create these things yourself. Let me just do this, the calculator. I'll place it in my desktop. Here I will right click and I will extract everything. That is fine, I will extract it. Then I can delete the zip file to not confuse myself. Let's go inspect the project folder. So I double click it and I'll drag it in from my other screen. We have 2 folders in it. We have an input and we have an output. In the input, you'll find an Excel book, products to be scraped. I'll open it. That's it. We have a sheet called products 1. That is the sheet that we will work on first. Here we will look at the 2 products, Nike t-shirt and ASIC gel. Later on we will take products 2 and face more challenges. Again, open up UiPath Studio, download these course materials. I'll promise you that you'll learn UiPath much faster. Now close this. Then we go back to the project folder. We also have an output folder in it, and if I double click here, it is empty. We will fill in the things ourselves. So I'll close this. I'll also go to the project folder. I'll need the path to this folder. We will use it in UiPath. And I just hover my mouse over, press Shift in, right click, and you'll see this copy as path emerges. It only works if you press Shift on your keyboard right on your mouse at the same time. Then I can click copy as path. I'll go back to UiPath. Make sure you click the main sequence, go down to variables. Here we will create a variable. The variables manager will open when you click variables. I can click it again, closes, now it opens. We will go up to name and then we will give our variable a name. Since this is our project path, I will call it project path. It will be of the type string. That's the most common variable type. In UiPath, a variable is a container for a value. That means that we give it a value and then we can use the name project path to get that value. It will be very easy when these values changes, and it's also best practice to use variables when things can change a lot. And here in the default, I'll press Ctrl V, that will be our path. A string variable in UiPath is always surrounded by quotation marks, and we'll have it here. As I said, this could change a lot. This is because we will use the project folder right now on our desktop. But imagine that we move this project into production, it will definitely not stay on our desktop. But for now it's fine. I'll just close this variables manager again. We want to open up a web page. So if I go down here and I go to the course materials again, we will use the global jdsports.com. That is just a simple sports apparel website. It will mimic all the websites that we can use. For example, an ERP cloud system, a CRM system, anything where we search and we want to get data out. I'll also close this downloaded thing here, so we'll have maximum of screen. With that open, you either need to click the link on the course page or just go to global.jdsports.com. We can go back to UiPath. Again, we want to open up an application or a browser. We use that with the use application browser with the calculator, so we can find it here in recent. We could, of course, also find it down here. And let me just collapse this so it looks a little bit nicer. Or I can search for use application/browser. We have it here, but it's in the recent, so I can just do this. I want to indicate it. So I click here, and here you can see our browser. If it is orange like it is here, it says that we cannot communicate with our browser. We simply just need to press escape and fix it. So go back to our browser. We want to look if we have installed and activated the Chrome extension. So go up here to extensions, click manage extensions, then scroll a little bit down. Here you can see the UiPath web automation. You'll need to enable this. This also means that we can now grab the browser. I can close down these extensions. I might need to refresh the browser, but let's go try it again. So if I click indicate application to automate, you can see it turns green. Now I can click with the mouse, and this means that we are now working at the global jdsports.com. Everything we need to do in that browser will go in this do container. Again, we can try to run it. So if I click this drop down, I can click run file. You'll see that nothing really happens. And that is because of some properties. Let's try to figure out what happened. So if I have marked this, make sure you click it here so the properties belong to that one. We'll go over to open. Click this drop down. Here I can say I will never open up a new browser. That's a setting that we'll rarely use because we want to open it. We can also say that we always want to open up a new instance, or the default settings is that if it's not open. But because we had it open, it did not open. If I choose always here, then it will open up a new window. That's sometimes optimal. Here in the close, I click this drop down. Here it will close down the browser if UiPath opened it. That's the default, that's this one. I want to see what's going on. I'll just manually close it while we develop here in the beginning. So I'll choose never. Let's try to run it again. So I click run file. Now you see that it went really fast, but we opened up a new window. I go back to UiPath. Let's try to do a search on this site. So I go up here to activities. Then I'll find a type into, and I'll drag it into the do container. Again, I need to indicate where I want to type into. I click the indicate in Chrome. Here, I want this search box up here. You can see that this box, there's a green border around it. That's the one I want to pick. UiPath automatically creates an address for us. It's called a selector, and we have multiple selector types. You don't need to understand it now. You just need to know what it is. We have a strict selector, we have a fuzzy selector, and we have an image selector. Each one of these, UiPath will determine which one of these are the strongest. It's usually the fuzzy selector, and then it will use, if it cannot find that, it will use the image as a second resort. We will look much more into these selectors and descriptors later on. Let's just click confirm. So now we told UiPath where we want to type in. Best practice is to rename your activities. You can see that this says type into input src input. Go down here and double click. And then instead of type into input whatever that is, I'll delete this and then I'll say search field and click enter. It's always best practice to rename it. Up here it says use browser Chrome JD Sports Global shop online now. That looks fine. Then we can say, what do I want to search for? For now, I'll just hard code in a value. That means that I will not use a variable. I'll just use a string that I type in here. And again, a string in UiPath need to go into quotation mark. So put in a quotation mark and UiPath automatically put in the second one. Here I'll search for Nike T-shirt like this. I also want to send an enter click because it's not enough just to type this in. I want to do the search as well. So I can place my mouse in the end. I can click this drop down. And here I can find some keyboard clicks. I can find the enter one. And UiPath automatically put in the code for an enter click. That's it. Try to run it again. So I go up here, run the file, and you'll see that we open up a new page and we do a search. If I go back to the browser, you can see that we now search for Nike t-shirts, and these are our results. Here I want to extract all this data. What I want here is the title, the price, and the URL, because each one of these I can get inside and have more details. So I want a URL tied to it. One challenge is that you can see here we have a normal price, but on some of the products, it looks a little bit different, and that is a challenge that we need to face. So let me scroll all the way up, go back to UiPath Studio. Now we want to scrape the data. First, let's make sure that we only have one web page open just to make it easy for ourselves. Here I have the search result, and this was the initial page. Let me just close that one here. It's only to make it easier for ourselves. UiPath can handle it. I go back to UiPath. This is structured data, and let's look at it again. Here I want to extract each element, and I go back to UiPath. UiPath have an extraordinary wizard for this, and that is the table extraction. So I go up here and click the table extraction. I first want to pick the title, so I'll say add new column. Here we can pick the title easily. I can pick the outer or the inner. I want to pick the inner because that's the most narrow one. It usually doesn't matter. I like to pick the most narrow one that suits our selection. Here I can extract text or URL. I'll pick text because that's what we want to extract first. That will be our title. UiPath automatically says, well, this title, all these has the same properties as the one you selected. I'll go scrape these structured data. Isn't that clever? Click confirm. Then I'll say title. I'll also, and then I can say enter. I'll also add a new column with the URL. So I'll click add a new column, and then I'll pick the URL. This is the same place as before. So I'll just go click here, extract URL. You can see that UiPath automatically says this is called title URL. That's because it's the URL tied to the title. Now I want the price. And here you can see that there's a regular price, for example, 33 and 18, and there's a sales price. Because those two are different formats, that means that I can choose two strategies. I can either choose just to have this narrow one, but then we might not have this one with us. So what I will do is to grab everything in the price area. I'll say add new column. Then I'll grab everything. I will not grab a price here, not this, but everything here. I'll just click. And now you can see that we grab everything. It also means that we will do some data gymnastics to get the right data out whenever we have a sale, but that's just a nice challenge for us. Click confirm. Here we will call this price and click enter. Now we have the data that we want, but let me scroll down. We have data on multiple pages. Here we have 5 pages. I want to scrape data on each one of these 5 pages. So up here in the extract data for multiple pages, I'll tick yes, and then I'll need to find a yes button. Next button, sorry. As this one, I'll click it. UiPath automatically creates a selector for us. This one, I can reveal that we will face some challenges with it, but these are challenges that we face as an RPA developer. So I really want to show you what we can do to fix all these things, because you'll learn a lot. Just do what I do. Now we're done, I'll click save and close. So if I scroll a little bit down, you can see UiPath automatically creates a data table called extract table data table. I can see that if I click here, go to variables, and we have created an extract data table called DataTable. That is where UiPath saved the results to. A data table looks and appears like an Excel sheet, except that it only exists in the robot's memory. That means that when we start the robot and this gets initialized, it will be there. But when the robot ends, and this is actually right after this, the data will be gone. So we need to save it, and this usually needs to be saved to an Excel sheet, a CSV file, or similar. No problem, we'll do that. I'll minimize this. Make sure you have this activated by clicking one again. Up here in the properties in the timeout, the default is 30 seconds. This means that it looks for the next button for 30 seconds, but that might be a little bit too long. I have a fast internet connection, so I'll choose 5 here. You can do the same to speed everything a little bit up. In case you have a slow internet connection, you might just want to go with 30. Now let's write this data table back to an Excel sheet. So I go up to activities, and then I'll find the right range. I can choose the Excel activities. Those ones are good because they're easy to figure out. The workbook activities, though, those ones are 2 separate branches, the Excel and the workbook. The workbook has the advantage that here we can do it without having Excel installed. Let's start with that, and let's go back to the Excel ones later in the lesson. So I'll find the right range workbook and drag it in here. We can fill in the data table first, because that's the data that we want to write back to Excel. And here we have the extract data table. So that one is easily to fill in. I could start to write it, but press Ctrl space on your keyboard and you will have the IntelliSense auto completion on. Press Tab. Then I can specify what sheet name do I want to put it in. This will be in the string format, so I'll have a quotation mark. UiPath automatically creates the second one. I'll call it Nike t-shirt for now. Then we need a workbook path. Let me minimize this, and this. We have our project path, and let me double click to open it. I want to save into the output one. So we'll need to find the project path. We saved that as a variable in the beginning, remember? Then I'll go into the output and I'll define what Excel name I want to save to. It will look like this. So I go up here, press Ctrl space again, and then find the project path, press Tab. Then you want a plus. Now I need to type something in. So again, you guessed it, quotation marks. Then I want to say backward slash because I want to go into the output folder. And then I want to say, what Excel name do I want? I can type everything I want here. I'll just call this scrapedata.xlsx. That's important because this will be an Excel file. That's sufficient. And if I just click up here, you'll see that this warning disappears. You want to go to properties and also add headers. That's it. I can click save, but our workflow is also saved when we click run file. You can see this asterisk next to the main. That means that we have unsaved changes. I revealed that we had a problem, but let me just show you what that problem is. So now I run it. I will open up the JD Sports, search for it. You can see up in the URL that we are easily moving with the next button. 280. Now we move back and forth between two sides. So this selector for the next button is not created well. Something is wrong. No problem. We work with these selectors, that is the addresses of the elements, a lot. Let me go back to UiPath. So I go back here, click stop. Then we want to say, I want to modify this. And to do so, mark the extract data table. Click this ribbon here, edit extract data. Then we will have this wizard back. To fix the next button selector, I'll click this wheel here. And here you can see that we have something that we might not want. That is this from 72. We even have an image. Usually we want to go with a strict selector when we want to narrow the things down. A fuzzy selector is a more generic one that can take more things that look like each other, whereas a strict selector will only select one, or at least select fewer things than the fuzzy selector. So mark this, untick the fuzzy, untick the image. Click this blue one here, and that will open up the UI Explorer, which is a really nice thing. So if I open up here, I can see that this ID, I don't want it. And I can also see the header here. The parent here is called chrome.exe and then a title called night t-shirt. That's the one up here. If I scroll down here, I can see this child. That is the actual identifier to the next button. Here, let's get rid of the ID. Right now, you can see that the next button is there and we can actually validate it. Right now, because since we changed it, this one turns yellow. UiPath doesn't know whether it's present or not. It should be present now. So when I click here, you can see that this turns green and we have a check mark. It's there. Similarly, I can press the 5. Let me go down here. I press the 5. Now we shouldn't have it. And we can validate here. And that's it. It turns red. Make sure you go to the 1 again. Otherwise, UiPath will bug. So I can just validate once more. That's fine. We have built a stable selector for the next page button. It says that target element is not visible on the screen. We know that it is. So we will just click OK here and I'll click confirm. Then we will click save and close and we will try to run the bot once more to see that this next one works. Here we navigate to all the pages. It will take 5 seconds before it looks for the next button now at the last page, and then it will finish. Let's go to the output folder. Here you can see we have created an Excel book. If I double click it, there you go. We have our data. We have a lot of them. We have like 294 rows. The first one is headers though. And you can see here we still have some work to do. We get the prices out right here, that's fine, but we also have some gymnastics to do here because I want to get the now price of all these sales. But these ones are just nice challenges for us. So let me close this one again and we will move on. Now we want to, instead of just searching for a Nike t-shirt, we want to extract multiple search results and multiple pages. Let us go back to the project folder. I'll go into the input. Open up this input sheet. I want to look at this input sheet called products to be scraped, and I want to go into products 1. Right now, I want to search for first Nike t-shirts and then ASIC gel, so we'll create a dynamic solution. It's very easy to do as well, so let's get started. Do pay attention to that the column header is called product. I'll close this one here and go back here. Here we can use the workbook activities again, but I promise you to show you the power of the Excel ones. I'll go up here in the start. Let's search for an Excel process scope. An Excel process scope is the one that surrounds all our Excel activities. So I'll drag that one in the beginning. It doesn't say much, but what I want to do is to mark it, then go over here, the Show Excel window. Do I want to have Excel visible while my robot works? I don't really want to, so I'll just click false. But if you like to see your Excel sheet gets updated, you will not click false here. But usually this is just a distraction and a performance. A little bit, it will create a little bit of lag in performance. So then we'll use Excel file. That is this one here. And again, you will learn these actions. I'll just use them for now. And I'll promise you that if you build these things with me, and if you start building your own projects, this will be very easy for you. First of all, we will need an Excel file. And here we will need to put in a workbook path. We still have our project path. So press Control Space and find the project path, which is here. Then we'll say plus. Again, as we did with the output, I'll have a quotation mark. Then I'll have a backward slash. I'll have the input and then another backward slash. Now I want to fill in the actual name of the Excel one here. And this is product to be scraped XLSX. To make sure I don't misspell, I'll just click here and make sure I mark everything. If you don't have the extensions, you will just add it manually in UiPath. So I Control C, I copy this, and then I'll go back here. Now move in here. I'll just Control V, paste it in. This is what I'm going to read. When we want to refer to this Excel file, we refer to it as Excel. We're not going to create it if it doesn't exist. That means that if this sheet doesn't exist, UiPath will create it per default. We're not interested in that because if it's not there, we don't want to read some blank one here. So I'll just untick the create if not exists. Now I will read this data into a data table. So I'll go up to activities once more, and then I'll find a read range and I'll drag it in here. The range I want to read. Let's talk a little bit about that. Here I just want to read an entire sheet, and let us just be 100% sure which sheet we're going to read. So I'll double click here. That one was called products 1. So back again to UiPath. What I can do here is to go over here. In range, I can go over to the plus, click plus. I can say Excel. I can say custom input. I can say sheet. And the worksheet name in quotation mark, that one will be products 1. Then I'll click save. Now you can see that UiPath creates this expression for us. That's the expressions that the Excel activity use. You could write them yourself. Say Excel, that is this reference up here, dot sheet, and then in quotation mark and parentheses, you will have the actual sheet name. Then we'll go down to Save To. Now we will save it into a data table. So we'll need to create one. We could, of course, create it down here in variables. But a smart trick is to press Control K. That will create a variable when we start typing. I'll call this one products. And when you click Enter here, we have created a data table variable. So again, when you are here in the blank one, press Control K. And you can see down here, we have created a variable called data table. And it's empty for now, but when we start the robot, we read the Excel data to it. Now I'm going to iterate through each one of these rows in the products data table. Remember, that's the one that we scraped from up here. We only have 2 goods. That was the Nike t-shirt, and I think it was some Asics shoes. Doesn't really matter. It was 2 goods that we want to iterate through. But this solution will work if we had 100 rows in our Excel sheet. So go up to activities, and then you'll find a for each row in data table, since this is a data table, and drag it in. Here you'll see that this current row, this is just a name for reference. you can say current product, current email, current car, whatever your data is. Current row is fine for now, but it just referred to the row that we're iterating through. Because if for each row in DataTable, take the rows in the DataTable one by one and do something about it. So over here, again, I press Control Space, and here you'll find the products. That is our DataTable. So for each one of these products, what do we actually want to do? Well, what we want to do here is that we want to do this search and the web scrape. So, and I will only open the browser once. So I'll first mark this use browser, and then I'll drag it up here just before the for each row. So I'll drag it up here. Can you see right here at the plus? I'll place it in. So what I then want to do, I could of course have designed it otherwise, but I want to show you how you move these things around. Then I want to say in this browser instance, we're still in this Excel one, then I want to have the for each row in DataTable. So mark that, and we want to drag it in the first just up here. So now we have it into the browser. And we only opened the browser once, but we're going to type for each one of the products, and that is what we do down here. So press it. Now you press Control in. We also want to do an extraction for each product, and we want to write to an Excel sheet. So what you will do here is that you will mark everything, and then you'll press Control X. Then you'll go down here, press Control V. Now you can you can cut and paste these activities throughout your flow. And let us just see what's going on. We're reading the Excel. We're using a file. Then we read it into a DataTable. We open up our browser. Then we're iterating to each one of these. We only have 2 products. And then we will do a search for that product. We will extract the data and write it out to a sheet. Right now, these ones will just be searched for Nike t-shirt twice, and we will overwrite it. So let's go fix that. Up here, we will not have this Nike t-shirt. We will still have this K enter. So let us just delete the Nike t-shirt. And then, so we will, I'll just have a space. I'll have a plus here in the first one, and spaces will just be ignored. It's just an easier way to represent data. Now I want to refer to the product in this iteration. So I'll refer to the current row up here, and then I'll say, what column do I need to look in? We only had one column. Remember, it was called product. Again, let me just open it. So what's going on? That was in the products one. We have this column. It was called product. And here I just want to take this one first, and then this one, and do searches and data scraping. So what we will do here, now move in here, go to the beginning. I'll just do this. Control Space, current row. And I'll say dot item. Item is the column. Then I'll say parentheses start, quotation marks. And then I'll say product, quotation mark, parentheses end. Since this is an object, I'll say dot to string. This is the .NET method to string. This will make it a string, so we can use it in a type in too. So now we search and we press enter, but we do it dynamically in regard to what product we have up here. So that one is fixed. The data scraping, that one was dynamic. And remember, we removed the Nike from the next button. Then, since I have the product expression here, let me just grab it up here. So mark everything here, Control C, and we will use the sheet name of the product. So it will just look like this. Now, and let me try to close these things here just to make completely sure that we actually scrape the data that we want. So now I'll do this. We're opening up the browser. We're doing one search, Nike t-shirts, and then we're navigating through each one of the actual ones. So here we're taking page 4, page 5, then it will end. Now it should write to Excel, and then we should do our new search in a little while. It will be as XGL, there you go. And I only think there's one page here, so it will just stop. Let us just inspect that one first. I'll go here. Here you can see we only have one page, so it just stopped there. That was nice. Let's also make sure that we have the right data in our output folder. Double click here. Now we have overridden the scraped data. Of course, the Nike one will be all the same, but I have a Nike t-shirt now. That one looks the same as before. Let me go up. But I also have an ASICS gel. These ones are the ASICS gel. Now we have done dynamic scraping. I have a problem. So let me close here. This scraped data gets overridden from time to time. I usually just don't want to overwrite data. This bot could run, say, 1 time each day, 10 times each day. And then I want to save the data from each one of the runs. So I go back here. Let me, instead of just testing in here, let me introduce you to a nice concept as an RPA developer. If I go to the project, here you'll see the project. We'll have the dependencies here. That's the packages that UiPath per default uses. We'll have our main. This main is this one here. I usually just create a test sequence instead of this main. So I go up here, click new sequence, and here I'll call this one test. I will click create. So you can see it shows up here. It has nothing tied to the main. This is just a playground for me to do nice things and test things. What I need to remember is that in the end, when we deploy this to production, then we want to make completely sure that we don't have a test, because that's just fill and disturbance. But for now, it's nice to have a playground. And I always have this when I develop these robots. So I mark this test. I go to activities. Let's find a message box. So I'll search for a message box and I'll drag it in. A message box is nice for debugging. It pops up a message to the user. It will pause the robot until we click OK. So it's nice when we want to inspect things. I want to use the date and time for doing the file naming. So I go down here, press Control Space. Then I want to say DateTime. This is again Visual Basic .NET coding. So you need to know a little bit about that. Make sure you stick to the end of this video, where I'll recommend books about UiPath and especially this coding. So here I'll say now. That will get me the time of now. And then I'll say to string, because this DateTime now will be in the DateTime format. So we can't really print it out to a message box unless we apply the .NET method to string. Let us try to run this again. And again, this is just in our test, so it'll only open up this message box. Now we have a nice date time, but we have a problem, and that is because we cannot use this in a file format. We have forward slashes and colons, so let's make it nicer to look at. I'll click OK. This is also a nice exercise in working with date and times. So I can define the format by going here. I can have a parentheses, and now you can see that this help says that we need a provider. And here I'll just have quotation marks, and then I'll specify what format I want it out in. I want the years. That'll be 4 Ys. In case you want to know what these Ys stands for, it looks a lot like the ones that you use in Excel. Then you can Google .NET custom date and time format strings. So then I'll have the month, days, hours, minutes, seconds. I'll use the seconds in the file name, and that is if the robot ran during the same minute, this will not get overwritten this time as well. So let me try to run it again and show you that we can now use this text in a file format. This will be unique down to the last second. You could add milliseconds as well. And in case you only run runs a day, you could get rid of these hours, minutes, and seconds. For us, it's quite nice. So what I will do here is that I'll use this expression in our main. So I'll copy this one here and go to the main. What we will do that in the beginning, when the robot starts, we will get the current date and time. We could do it in the variables manager, but for visibility, I'll put it in here in the end, in the start, sorry. Then I'll go up here. I'll press Control K. This will create a new variable. When it is in an assign, it will just create a string variable. I'll call this now. And then we will give it the value that we just had. So I'll press Control V. Now we have this one in a variable called now. Then we can use it down here when we save the data. So in the right range workbook, I can put in the now after this output and before the scrape data. So what this will look like. Now we need to combine, again, as we did before, we'd combine the variable with some hard-coded things. So I'll end this output with a quotation mark. Then I'll say plus. Then I'll pick the now. I'll say plus and a quotation mark to start this one here. I might also want to go in here and have an underscore. So I can run the robot once more. Here we will open up the web pages and do the searches once more. But now we will not overwrite data because the DateTime, that is a unique string down to the second. And of course, our robot will not run during the same second. Here you can see that we have finished. Now we have the ASXGL and we only have one page. It will finish in 5 seconds. It looks for the next button. That's it. And if I go to this one here, there you go. We now have dynamic file naming. Everything in the output folder will never be overwritten. Instead of the right range workbook, we could go completely Excel activities. It works. This is fine, but you might want to go with these Excel activities. Those ones will be the future. These are so easy. UiPath started to implement them in Studio X and are now using them here in Studio. So if we go over here, since we're going to use a new Excel file, we're not going to, we cannot use this use Excel file up here. So what we will do is down here, we will have another use Excel file. I'll drag it in here. So the workbook path, well, we just created it down here. So I'll just Control A, Control C, paste it up here. So now we have a workbook path. We will not reference it to Excel because we already chose that one up here. So we can just call this one Excel result. We want to create it if it not exists. That is because the first time it will not exist. So we will create it. And furthermore, we will just override it, or sorry, append to it because it already exists with this name. Now we will write the data to this Excel sheet. That will be the data from here. So go up here. And then you'll find a write data table to Excel, drag it in here. What to write? Well, that will be the extract data table. So I will just find it here. Now go down and copy this one here. So we have copied, this is the sheet name. And here we will use the same sheet expression as we did up here in where we refer to the sheet. Let me just find it. That will be this one here. So we could write it, or we could be lazy again and make sure that we don't make any mistakes. So if I go to destination, I'll go to plus sign. Make sure you pick the Excel results because that's the one we refer to now. I'll take custom input. I'll take sheet. And here I will paste this one in. This will not be in quotation marks since this is not a string, a hard-coded string. So now you'll see that I want to use the Excel result sheet, and then we will use the current product name as the actual sheet name. Now I can delete this. This will also work. So if I save it and run the file, I could again just run file. It's an old habit just to save it here and there. Now we run the robot. And we could start to close down the browser instances because we are not closing them. We wanted to let them stay open because we needed to see what's going on. And when the robot fails, we wanted to see what might have went wrong. But now we can see that everything works. We have built a nice robot that scrapes multiple products. It scrapes multiple pages. It writes down to Excel. With these few actions, let me just show you how little we just did. We just did these, I think we have like 6 or 7 actions, and we accomplished this much. We still have work to do, but one step at a time. And let me just minimize this. Let's close down some of the browsers. Well, that wasn't too much. That will be this. So if I go to my scraped results, this will be the last iteration. We will see that this works as well. I have a problem because my price can take 2 formats. One that looks well, we might want to move the British pound sterling, and one that is really not too well, or at least we want to get the now result. We can do this in several ways. A very cool way to do it, and a thing that you will practice a lot as an RPA developer, that is regular expressions or RegEx. So if I go to a browser, then you want to search for RegEx 101.com. RegEx is a series of characters that defines a search pattern. First thing you'll want to do is to click this .NET C#. That is because we use the .NET engine. Then we need our things, that the two formats that the price can take. So if I go here, I'll first just pick one of these regular ones. We can take the first one. Go here, paste it in the test string. Then you can have an interclick, doesn't matter how many. I'll pick one of the irregular ones. So Control C, copy it, and paste it in here. If we wanted to extract any British pound out of this, then we could start to write, we could say British pound sign. You can see that we can now find it. We will use this search pattern in UiPath to extract the things out. Then I can say, then I want 2 digits, for example, digits here, and then to have 2, I can either put in another D, but I'll take this one here. Now we have 2 digits, and I want a dot and another 2 digits. So, and these ones are escape, both the digit sign and the dot sign. I don't expect you to learn RegEx, but I expect you to do an effort in understanding this, because this will improve your career if you don't already know what RegEx is. So please learn this with me. Just do these things. You will already learn a lot after this lesson is done. So this is how we could extract any British pound amount. But it will work up here, but we will have a problem here because it cannot determine whether it was a was or now. So let's just first pick the regular price. So what I will do here is that I'll delete everything. I want to say, look at the start of a line, and maybe I want to say, do I want a pound sign or not? I'll not use it because I know that there will be a pound sign in front of each of our prices, but we can easily say that we wanted it in. Here I'll say parentheses, and I'll have something that is called a positive look behind. What this is that I can say look behind something. And let's move in here to the equal sign. Let me just again say what we do. We have a parentheses, question mark. Then we have this smaller than, and then equal. And then we can say, what do we want to look after? Here I want to look after a pound sign. It will look like this. We haven't picked any character now, but we created 3 anchors. You can see now we look after a pound sign. We only wanted to, and you can see these ones here, those ones are not so good because we don't want the ROS. So in case we said we want only a pound sign at the first of a line, that will be if a line starts, then I move in front of the pound sign. Then I'll make a hat like this. Now we only have picked the one where pound sign is the first one at a line. So very powerful. Move outside the parentheses. Then we want to say, what do I want to look for? Well, I want to look for digits and dots. So in hard brackets like this, hard bracket start, hard bracket end, inside the hard bracket, I will tell RegEx what I want to look for. I want to look for a digit, and that is a / digit. Now you can see that it only finds 1. But if I move outside the hard bracket, place a plus, now it will find 1 or more. By the way, the guide over here to the right is impressive. It helps you a lot if you want to understand regular expression. And again, I really want you to understand it. So then we have the digits. I also want a dot. So if I go in here and after the D, I'll have a / and a dot. Now we have everything. So this is our expression for the first one, that is the regular price. But it will not pick up these. So we will need to make one from here. And what we can do here, up here, we can make a pipe that is this sign called, that will be an OR in RegEx. So now we will say, if you can't find this, then find something else. And here I want to look after a now. And what we'll do here is just to do exactly like we did before. So I will have a positive look behind once more, like this. And in here, I'll have a now. But be careful, these two white spaces are not the same. It might look like two spaces, but for some reason, there are a little difference in it. So just copy from now all the way to these two white spaces. Then you want to go up here and paste it in. And since we don't want a pound sign, we will say look behind a pound sign. Now we have it. You can see the only anchor is down here. We can just copy this. We made this expression for the digits, or we can write it again. Let's practice our skills. So we'll have a hard bracket, backward slash, that is for the digits, backward slash for the dots, another hard bracket, and then we will have a plus sign like this. So now you can see with this expression, we both get if it's a regular price, but we also get if it is an irregular price with both a was or a now. We will use this expression in UiPath. So go copy it. I know it's a lot, but I really hope you do it. You will learn so much. Go back to UiPath. Then we want to go a little bit down, because what we want to do when we extracted the data, we want to make another for each row in a data table. And here we need to be very careful because we already have one here. That is the one that iterates through the products. Now we will iterate through the extracted data table. So find a for each row in data table and drag it in. Here we will not use the same reference name. We already used this current row up here. So call it something else. We could call it current line. And here I want to press Control space. That will be my extracted data table. So we want to do something. And here I want to say, I want to look whatever is in the price, and then I want to make a new value to it based on my regular expressions. So what you will do here is to find an assign and drag it in here. I know that this can be too much. Simply just pause or rewind the video. It's designed for that. Now I want to say for each one of these lines that is referred to by the current line. So Control space, have it here. Then I want to say what column do I need to update? And again, let me just show you what we're actually doing. We are updating the price column. So that's what I'm going to do here. And let me just go here. I'll say dot. I'll have an item. And let me mouse. Parentheses, quotation mark, and then I'll say price. So the left side is where do I want to update something. And then the right side, that will be where I format what's already in there. This is quite small. To make it a little bit bigger, you can go over to properties here to the right and click this dot here. We can make it a lot bigger because now we want to apply regular expressions. This is the search pattern that we just have. What we will do here, press Control space. I'll say system dot. Again, you will get used to this and you will use regular expression a lot. Like this. I will say regex. I'll say match. Find a match, then I'll have a parentheses. Then I want to say, where do I want to look? Well, I want to look in the current line in the price, what's in the current row, that is the current line, in the price column. So I'll just do this one here. I'll say current line, and I'll say current line, and then I'll say item. Then I'll say quotation mark. Price. So now I'm looking for that. Then I want to apply a regex pattern. So go here and then have a comma, and now we'll have a pattern. Put in a quotation mark because the pattern needs to go in a quotation mark. Now you will press Ctrl V to paste in your pattern. That's it. We have now our regex pattern. What I just need to do is just to make sure that this current line item, this is an object, so I just need to apply the .NET method to string. That's it. Now we're done. I can click OK. What's happening here is that we're simply just updating this extracted data table. We're giving a new value to what's in the price, and we do that with regular expressions. And again, I can close all of the things that we don't need. Let's try to run it and see that our regular expression works. And while we're here, what do you think about this course? If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you want to see next or how easy you think this is. What can I do better in this guide and all the likes? So here we are iterating through, that is the first denied, then we will wait 5 seconds, and then we will have the ASIC gel. There you go. We can inspect the results just to see that we have what we want. That's it. You can see we now have all the prices down here, and we have the prices nicely formatted. We don't have the British pound sign, and we have the correct price. Isn't that beautiful? Let's say we also want the before price. We had it before. We could add a new column here, and then we could add the before price if it's present. Sometimes it's not. It's only the goods that are on sale. So let me close this one again. We had it in the regular expression builder. So if I go here, that is the was price. We can create, we already had this expression. This works fine. This works fine. We know that. Now let us delete this and try to create one that will extract the before price if it's present. Again, you will use a positive look behind like this. And what do I want to look for? That will be the was. And here I can also take the British pound sterling with me. I'm not really sure I got, but make sure you copy it because these two spaces are different ones. So it will not work if you just press in spaces here. Then we will have this hard bracket. We will have a digit, escape D, and an escape dot. A dot, if we don't escape it, it means everything. Then I'll have a plus, and we now have the before price. Now go copy this expression and go back to UiPath. Here I want to apply it, and I want to do it before we are formatting the actual price because we're using the price, so you want to have it before. But we want to add a column to this extract data table. So what you will do here is to find add data column, and you will drag it in here. We will give our column a name, and here I will just call it before. The data table where I will extract a column to, that will be the extract data table. So control space, extract data table. Now I want to, again, apply the regex. I want to apply the regex to the price. That will be this one that we're using here again. But I want to update the before column. So similar to this one. I'll find the sign. We'll take it step by step, don't worry. I'll press control space. I'll say current line, then dot, item, parentheses, quotation mark, and then I'll say before. This is the column that I want to update. We could copy something here, but let's try to do it again. You will learn so much more. Again, we will have the right side a bit expanded. Control space. Then I want to say system, dot text, regular expressions, regex, dot match. And now we want to refer to the current line. And I want to say dot item. I want to say price. If things goes too fast, I'll take a little break now. So this is the one that I will look in. And I'll have a comma, quotation mark, and I'll paste in my regex. I'll take 10 seconds here. And in case you haven't checked out the Discord community, that is where we are more than 5,000 RPA developers. There's a free invite for you and a video guide how to sign up in the comments. It's totally free and you can network and solve UiPath problems with like-minded developers. Now we have this regex pattern, and now we're updating the before column, which we added up here. Now, if I click away, we don't have an error. Let us also close this one here. So we only have one browser instance open. Shouldn't we go test it to see that we can actually get the before price out as well? Again, we are doing a lot of the same things, but you usually want to do that as an RPA developer. You want to see one step work at a time. So soon we'll have the ASIC gel. quick search, and then we will scrape these things back. It will take a little bit longer now because now we are applying these regex to the actual extraction. So we heard our runtime a bit, but that's fine. That's how we want to do it. Here you can see that now we have an error. That is because a column named before already belonged to this data table. And here, that is because we need to change the scope. These are the expressions that the error messages that we'll get. And what happens here, let me just go out to the main. So what we want to do is to make sure that when we extract this data table, it will get reset here in this body over and over. So let me just move this a bit down and let me scroll down here. Now I want to open up the variables. So instead of the do, that will be this do here. Then it will not get reset. I want to get it to make it reset after each for each one of these iterations. I can do that by only defining it in the scope of the body. So here, just change it to body. This will solve the error. And what we will do here is just to see if it works. That's the nice thing about UiPath. It's like Sudoku. We will get a lot of problems like the selector and these things. Don't panic. It's very, very easy. You'll always be able to maybe not solve it the first time. Now you've seen this, then you know it to the next time. But you will be able to Google it easily, Stack Overflow. You can ask on the Discord. Again, ask in the comments here on the YouTube video. Ask the more experienced developers. If you do an effort, we all want to help you. If you just want projects to be solved without trying, of course, you will get little help on, for example, the Discord. But now you can see it works. We should also verify that it indeed worked. So this was just to change the scope a bit. And here's the last one. So what we have here is that, maximize this. We now have the price, and here we have 3 sales. And again, we have it over here. We have the before price, and we also had some sales in the end. There you go. We have now added a before column, and we could actually also drag out the before one. Let's delete this. We're almost done here, but we need to understand Orchestrator. So what we do here is that we will just minimize this. Let's remove the test sequence. So go to project. This was the one that we practiced where we used the date. So you can just right click here, click delete. Yes, it's now gone. It shouldn't be there when we move this into production. I can now, let's say I want to change it. So I have this input, this product to be scraped. Open it. Here, now I want to change from products 1 to products 2. This one is just 5 products instead of 2. So, and since we made such a great automation that can easily be scaled, we can just change one thing, then it will be very easy for us. So we go up here, and instead of just reading sheet products 1, we can just read sheet products 2, and our automation will work. Delete this, and let's try to run the robot again. Here, I will fast forward. I'll click run now. You will see that we are extracting 5 products. I'll fast forward to the end. That's it. We have now scraped 5 different products and a lot of pages. Let's inspect the result. Go to the output. This last one here. Here you see we have the Puma. We have a lot of things here. And we have the Converse here. We have the Adidas shorts, Asics gel, and a Nike t-shirt. You can see here we have the price in a nice format, but we had this before in some weird format. And that is because we can just, when we created the column, we could specify what data we want in it. So in case we want to make it as nice as the price, I can just, let me close this. I can go back to UiPath. Then we go back to the add data column, go over to properties, and instead of this object, we can specify what it will. If it's going to look the other things, we will just have a string. I will not run the robot, but in case you want to see it, you can just try to run it and verify it. Let me know in the comment that this works. Now we are done with our nice automation, but we still need a lot of things. We need to publish it to Orchestrator, and this is very important because the Orchestrator is where we manage our processes. That is, we can make it run unattended. That means that it can run in the night on another computer. What you want to do here is to hit publish over here. Here we can give it a name. I'll just go with UiPath Beginner's Course. That's the name we gave it in the beginning. So then I can click next. Here we can publish it to the personal workspace feed. I want to publish it to the Orchestrator tenant process feed. I want to make it unattended later on, so I'll process it here. I can click next, or I can just click publish now. So we are publishing our process up to Orchestrator. This means that we can use it in Orchestrator when we want to schedule things or whatever we want to do. Then you can click OK. Make sure you are connected to the UiPath Assistant. We did that in the beginning, but you can go down here, double click the UiPath Assistant and still verify that you have this screen one up here. Nothing will be changed, but in case you watch this video during different days, you just need to verify that you have it here. Then we can minimize it to tray again. Let us go to Orchestrator. And let us just close down all this browser thing again. So I can close down the RegEx. And one thing that we could also actually do to make sure that we don't have these browser windows open when we scrape was that, remember, we could use this use browser over here. Then we chose never to close it. And here I can say close it if it's opened by the app browser. So just make sure that when we run this from Orchestrator, this one will not be deployed. To deploy it, it's very easy. You just click publish. This one will be the new version 1.02. So I can click next. This one will be the parameter that we set before. I can just click publish. We now published a new version. This is how you want to, when you build new things in your robots, you can just publish it as a new version. So that's fine. I go back here. To go to Orchestrator, you want to navigate to cloud.uipath.com. This address up here. Then I want to press enter. And this will take you to this run page. You might have it open if you watch this video in one go. So then I'll click Orchestrator. The My Workspace folder, which you see here, that is a personal attended folder. We want to create a new folder where we can use unattended robots. So here I click tenant. I now click folders. I'll click this plus here, and here I'll make a folder called Anders Jensen org. I'll use the tenants package feeds. That is fine. I'll click create. Then I'll choose manage access. You want to manage your user. Usually it's the one with email in. Here's mine. I click these 3D here, click edit. No role selected. Go down here, allow to be automation user. That's it. Click next. Click next once more. Here you want to make sure that this allow unattended robots to run automation as this user is ticked. So if it looks like this, make sure it's ticked. We will go down here and use a specific Windows user account, add the credentials below. So here, to find a domain, you'll go to the start menu, type in command prompt. Sometimes it will not get it automatically from here. That's why we found it here. Here, I'll just type in who am I? Again, start menu, CMD, enter. This will give you this one. This is our domain. Let me copy this one here. Control C. Copy it here. The password, that is your Windows password. I put in mine. Now you can click update. That's it. Let me just close this one here. Now we go to machines and click these 3 dots, edit machine, add an unattended license to this machine. I'll click update. Then you want to go down to Anders Jensen and we want to assign this machine to this folder. So I click these 3 dots, settings, assign machines. There it is. Mark it, click update. That's it. Now we can add our process. So still in the Anders Jensen org, make sure you click here and you go down here. then you want to click Automations, click Add a Process. Here we will find the process that we created, the UiPath Beginners course. We have the 1.02, that is the version that we gave it. Here I'll click Next. We don't have any packages along with our robot, so I'll just click Next once more. That's it, we just go with the default properties. If we don't specify name, it will just be called UiPath Beginners. I can click Create. Just click Close for now. This is how it looks when you go there. So when you click your folder, you will find your processes in Automation, Processes. To run it as an unattended robot, you can click these three dots, add a trigger. Here you can schedule it, that could be every night at 2 o'clock, or we can use a queue. That is when we add items to a queue, then we can kick off our robot. In case you want to learn about queue and the reframework, that is the template that UiPath uses when you want to scale robots in, for example, a company, then you should click this video up here in the right corner. That will teach you everything. It's an advanced video, but it will take you through each step, so just like here. Anyway, we will not use a scheduled robot for this time. We will just see that this works. So I click Cancel here. I can just kick things off here. I can start this little play here. Here you'll see that the runtime type is unattended. It will just take any account and any machine. That's fine. We only have one. So here I will click Start. Then we are running our automation. There you go. You have now created an unattended robot. Wasn't that easy? And we don't want to see this to the end. I will fast forward to the end just to show you that we had this column right. And then make sure you stick, because we will talk a lot about the best books and the best UiPath resources as this finish. There you go. We have ran our unattended robot. Let's also inspect the actual results here and see that we formatted it very nicely. So if I go down here, now you can see that the before column has been formatted nice. We just changed the type argument. I just visited my bookshelf here behind me here and here with all my best UiPath books. Let me go through them, and these are books that if you want to read, if you like reading, I like to take them to public transportation, to the beach when I travel. You can learn so much from them. Let me go through them one by one, and there's a list if you want to buy them below in the description. First of all, the coding language in UiPath, that is VisualBasic.net. This book is the absolute best. It will not only teach you VisualBasic.net, but also object-oriented programming. It's written by Jesse Liberty, one of my old-time idols. At some point, you want to get certified in UiPath. This guide was enough to get you started. You learn some advanced concepts, but you still need some if you want to get certified. This book has it. It is a very nice A to Z rundown of all the important things that you want to focus on if you want to get certified. By the way, this associate certification is the first certification. That is the one that you want to take as a beginner, or maybe like you need to have, I think, 3 months of experience, I'll recommend. Then you want to go with the advanced one later on. If you want to use intelligent document processing, that is using AI to take data out of your documents, this book is for you. This is not a beginner's book, so definitely read it if you want to get inspired or want to go advanced. It is great because it's examples, so you can just literally just open your computer and learn from it. It also has a nice chapter about integrating chatbots into UiPath. The Clean Coder. Nothing to do with RPA and UiPath, but still the best book. If you should only buy one book, it should be this. Why? It teaches you the core of software development principles, and these ones apply to RPA development as well. It will prepare your processes to the future you. That means when you come back to your UiPath flows, you need to structure them. That was renaming them, commenting them, documenting them, to make sure that you can easily see what's going on, and also the future colleague of you. So that's the principle here. SQL. Yeah. We use that a ton as RPA developers. We use it in Excel to make queries, and we use it with databases. As you remember, and being an RPA developer is a lot about taking data out of system A and transferring them to system B. In our example, we did it from Excel to a web page and back from the web page to another Excel. Here we can also use databases. This book teaches you SQL, I will say 10 minutes, it's very optimistic. I might say 2 days or something. You'll learn all the basics. And that's it with RPA development. You don't need to master all these surrounding technologies. You just need to have a brief recognition of all of them, like we had on RegEx, because you usually just need the basics. And if it's not enough, you can Google it, Stack Overflow. You can go on the Discord, the I Love Automation Discord. There's also a link down here. Or you can ask a much more experienced developer at your company. The Intelligent Automation book is written by Ian Barking, my friend. And this is not why I recommend this. This is a very good one where we take each topic in the intelligent automation, that is computer vision, big data, machine learning, all the things that we can apply to make our robots thinking, seeing and talking, chatbots and these things is explained in here. It's not an advanced book. Probably your mother can understand it, and that's the strength of it. It's easily read, but it gives you a nice knowledge, especially if you want to crack UiPath job interviews. This book is for you. In the end, there's also a use case section where you can get inspiration. Then we have my favorite RPA book, that is the Robotic Process Automation Handbook. It's written by Tom Tawley. It's not an advanced book, but it teaches you a lot about the ecosystem, the pipeline, the RPA pipeline, everything you need to know to get a nice understanding about RPA. There's a practical part in this book as well. I will not recommend it, that is outdated, but it's easily worth it just for overview here. So the last book, I have it on my Kindle, that is written by my friend Aaron Kumar. It's about supporting and administrating UiPath ecosystems. And it's a lot for the support people, the IT ops and the likes, but it's also for you that want to know more about the technical aspects of UI. I'm not giving it 5 stars because Aaron is my friend, but generally because I like this book. Again, it's cheap and it's easily read. The whole book list is in the video description below, and I'll definitely recommend go check that one out. The best UiPath resources, those ones are right here at YouTube. And here are my 3 favorites. Tutorial by Mukesh Kala. Mukesh Kala is a UiPath most valuable professional. He is very skilled. He will teach you all the best practices. He makes long videos. You can watch them like you watch this video. Definitely go check his channel out. The next one, that is UiPath with Jeppe. Jeppe is from Denmark, like I am. I don't know him personally, but he seems like a nice guy. He makes videos about advanced UiPath concepts. The final one, that is this channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to get all my new RPA UiPath videos. With that said, I want you to check my Discord out. Here we network and solve UiPath problems with more than 5,000 RPA developers. It's totally free to join. Check this video. There's an invitation for you in the video, and there's a guide for you to join.